All right, good morning, everybody. It is Money Making Monday, as my man Tony Ruiz pointed out. Hopefully today we get back on the winning track. If you took some L's yesterday, it's a new day. We put yesterday behind us. We move forward. Yesterday was a pretty decent day for me overall with NBA and MLB. Lots of different ways to play yesterday over on PrizePicks. So good morning to everybody out there. My name's CJ. Thanks so much for joining me. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do so now. We just passed 5,900 subscribers, and you subscribing and liking today's video will help me grow and continue down the path of success. We're on our way to 6,000 subscribers, and the more new subscribers we get, the closer we are to hitting those goals. So I appreciate everybody who continues to join in, support the channel, support my work through YouTube, whether it be through Discord, whether it be through Patreon. I appreciate all the support out there. So shout out to the chat. I see we got a lot of folks up in here this morning. Tony Ruiz is in the building. He says, happy money making Monday. Got Joey Jones in here. What up, fam? Let's get this bread today. I love that vibe. I love that energy. Chad Norton's in here. He says, good morning. It's been a streaky couple of weeks. Let's get this money today. Shout out CJ and Patreon. Just joined the community. Appreciate you joining, Chad. Thank you so much for the support, brother. I am glad that you're with us. Jimmy Green also with us. I know he's a Patreon member. He says good morning to everybody. Let's keep smashing that like button for good luck. Hey, positive karma, right? You get what you put in. So you put in those likes. Hopefully you get out those wins. Drew Breeze says, what's good, everyone? Let's start this week off with some dubs. Couldn't agree more. It's a great time, great day for us to get some wins. T-Bone says, what's good, Patreon and the live stream. 3M Day, Money Making Monday. He knows what it is. Bobby Porter's PRA hit yesterday. Yes, it did. I saw you took the over on that. Bold move, but it paid off. It paid off. King United's in the building. He says that now that everyone has played one game, we should have a better idea of how things will play out. Couldn't agree more. Tonight's games are all game twos. So we've already got a game one in the books, a playoff game between these two teams, the teams that will be playing tonight. So I agree with that. Hopefully things smooth out a little bit and it's a little bit more predictable where we can pick our spots, who we can go to. But we'll get into that in just a minute. Swavlos says, Swavlos? I'm terrible with names. What's up, everyone? Hope all get winnings. Yes. That's what I hope for, too. Ari's in the building. He says, good morning, gang. Rough weekend. Let's turn it around this week. Yeah, I've been having a lot of success with MLB, namely strikeout props. So if you're interested in some MLB picks and plays, Patreon's the way to go. We talk NBA on the live streams, but I'm doing a lot of work in these MLB streets, these baseball streets behind the scenes for the Patreon gang. So definitely jump into Patreon. It's just $20 a month. You win one $10 two-pick power play, and your whole month of Patreon's paid for. No off season. Still no betting for me this week, but CJ is the man to follow. Good luck, everyone. Have fun and win some money. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Everyday Fantasy says, good morning to everybody this morning. Today is Bogdanovich's birthday. Which Bogdanovich? The Utah Bogdanovich? Are they both playing tonight, or is it just the Utah Bogdanovich? I don't know. But it's a Bogdanovich birthday nonetheless. So maybe he'll be looking to blow out some candles. Anthony says that he, Will Smith, smacked that like button. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support, brother. Duncan W says, good morning to all. Hope all is well. I had one of those nights where I went 10 of 15 but lost 3 units. Wish I could play lines individually sometimes. Oh well. We just got to ride the wave. Yes, we do. There are going to be ups. There's got to be downs in this game that we play. But hopefully we get more wins than losses over the long run, and that's how you have to kind of approach things. Macro mindset, not micro. In other words, long term, not short term. As long as we're winning the week, in other words. We got to win the week, and then we'll be all right. All right? Darian says, good morning, hustlers. Let's get this cheddar. Jordan Barnett's in the building. Good morning to you. Chef Curry's going to cook up some dubs. Hopefully we do unlock some gems on today's NBA slate. Lewis is in the building. What's up, Patreon gang? What's up to you, Lewis? Sean Vega's here. Shout out to you. Kevin's in the building. Shout out, Kevin, for being here. Jeremiah, last night was tough. Yeah, we had some tough games last night, right? A couple of those later games in the night, 10.5-point spreads. I think they both ended up truly being blowouts, right? We don't like that. We don't like blowouts. Let's see. Lute's email says, Money Making Monday, are you going to be doing this for baseball season also? I know you try to get in some when you can, but more moving forward. maybe Lutz. We'll have to see about that. We'll have to see. Undecided at this point. Stay tuned, though. I'll let you know what the plans are post-NBA. Andrew says, CJ, my man. Andrew, my man. Thank you for being here. Mr. C3P says, a rough day yesterday. CJ, what's good, gang? What's good with you? Iman's in the building. Celtics versus Nets may end up being one of the best playoff series ever. Ever. Wow, that's a bold statement. Goat's in the building. Shout out to you. DFS Whispers, what's up, CJ? How you been, man? I've been good, brother, and I've been popping into your channel. Been seeing you do a little thing with the MMA. You had the Behind the Capper series. Go check out the DFS Whispers if you have not yet. All right? Doing some good work over there. So shout out to you. Easy. Who else we got here? Andrew? If Levine hit one more three, I would have had 200 in my account. Instead, I have 10. Oh, say it ain't so. Divine Truth Allah says, peace. What's good, CJ? New day, new money. Appreciate that. Love the energy, man. Love the energy. Michael McNeil, what's up, y'all? Let's get this money. And then we got Fax, who says, salute. Salute back at you, Fax. All right, gang. Hello to anybody that I missed out there. If you're just getting in here, you know the drill. You got to hit that like button. It's like watering a plant, watering a tree, right? We want to see this YouTube channel to continue to grow out of the earth. And I can't do it alone. I can only hit the like button once myself, but you know, with the power of the people, you guys can really smash that like button. We got Khan in the building from San Francisco, California. Shout out to San Francisco, California. It's about 8 o'clock over there, huh? Glad you're starting your morning off with me. Bearded Gator. Okay, Michael McNeil. I know that name. I've seen that name in Discord. Let's get down to business, though. 7:30 p.m. tip-off time. We got the Toronto Raptors versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Another low-scoring total here. 216 points between these two teams. 7.5-point spread. We got to keep an eye on a number of different names for the Toronto Raptors. Big ones, too. Not just little names, not role players, but significant impact players. Guys like Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, both game time decisions. I think Barnes might already be out. I really don't think Barnes is going to play tonight. I think Gary Trent Jr.'s got a better shot of playing than Barnes does. And then we got Thaddeus Young, the old vet, going up against his former team, the Philadelphia 76ers tonight. Sixers not really dealing with anything too crazy injury-wise. Of course, we know game one. My man Tyrese Maxey went bonkers, went berserk. It wasn't so much a Joel Embiid or James Harden. I mean, it was the Tyrese Maxey show. He stole the show. So that'll be an interesting game to take a look at. The next game up on tonight's slate would be the Utah Jazz at the Dallas Mavericks. Just 205.5 implied points between these two teams. You want to talk about a slow, grinded out, low scoring type of game? This is the game for you, okay? Lower the total, that means there's going to be less possessions. Less possessions means there's going to be less shots taken, which will also impact how many rebounds there are, assists there are, blocks and steals, those types of things. Just 205.5 points. That's a pretty low total. 5-point spread, so they're expecting that hopefully it stays close. Keep an eye on Luka Doncic. Not sure what his official status is. I don't know if we have one yet, but he is a game time decision, according to the fine folks over at Number Fire. So keep an eye on that one. And then finally, the last game of the night. Last game of the night, the Denver Nuggets at the Golden State Warriors, 223.5 points. It's the highest scoring total of any of the three games on tonight's slate. 7-point spread. So nice little total, nice little spread. Hopefully it stays close and competitive. Nothing really changing here in terms of injury news. Guys being ruled out for tonight. It's going to be the same old for both of these squads. So that's it, man. 3 games. Toronto, Philadelphia starting things off. Then it's Utah and Dallas. And then it's Denver and Golden State for the nightcap. So there you go. Yep, Barnes is out. Okay, Barnes is definitely out. I kind of thought so. I thought I remember reading that Scotty Barnes was definitely out. Oh, we got Palmdale in the building. Palmdale, home of Afro Man, I think. Is he from Palmdale? I think he's from Palmdale. Anyway, looks like Tony Ruiz took the Rich Hill over strikeout prop. He's reporting that Rich Hill already with 1 strikeout to start the day. Love that. Chris Stevens, shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Another one of our Patreon members. Isaac is in the building. Oh, big booty Isaac, shout out to you, brother. Thanks for being here. Sorry to put you on blast like that, but I heard you got them cakes. Nah, let me stop. That's an inside joke for those of y'all who don't know. He's on that Kyle Lowry, Big Booty Lowry gang. So I wanted to turn the tables on him a little bit. Talk about his cheeks for a second. All right. Let's look at some points props. We've got 3 games to talk about, 6 teams, lots of different ways to go with these points props. We're going to start things off by looking at the last 10 games. Who's been hitting at the highest hit rates? Who's been missing? I mean, we're going to try and figure it out here. Some of you guys were high up on Aaron Gordon, game 1, but I kind of warned you guys that he had struggled against the Golden State Warriors. He had struggled against Draymond Green, and sure enough, Aaron Gordon did struggle in his last game versus Golden State, game 1. So AG's at 14.5 points today at an 80% hit rate. We're getting him at 15.5 over on PrizePicks. We got Joker on the board at 28.5. He's got a 70% hit rate. Will Barton, 15.5 points, 70% hit rate for him over the last 10 games. We got Bogdanovich. As we mentioned, it's Bogdanovich's birthday, so maybe he comes out, looks to have a big game. I think he had a pretty good game 1, if memory serves me right. 70% hit rate for him at 18.5 points. We've also got some Rudy Gobert at 13.5 points, 70% hit rate. Now from there, a number of dudes hitting at 60%, including Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Pascal Siakam, Dwight Powell, Andrew Wiggins. Bane, we're not so worried about. He doesn't play today. Steph Curry's on the board, though. Tobias Harris, all at 60%. And then from there, you got the likes of Embiid and Maxey, Mitchell and Conley. 50% for those dudes. So you guys let me know which points props did you guys want me to take a look at? Yeah, what did AG end up having? 8 points against Golden State? Yeah, he didn't have a very good game. He had been hot, but he did not have himself a very good game. So let's take a look at the points props that you want to talk about. I'm here for you guys. I try to make this show all about you. Try to make these props all about you. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we could talk about, man. Isaac says, Big Booty Lowry for life. Yep, old thick boy. Lowry's a thick boy. Jeremiah Carter's already mentioned in Brunson. Gang, let me know if you know anything about Luka's status. Is he in or out officially? Let me know. We'll start things off with Jalen Brunson, though, at 22.5 points. I guess we're assuming that Luka is out. Is that the move? Is Luka doubtful? Luka's doubtful. Last that you heard, Luka's doubtful. All right. He's still dealing with that calf strain. So we'll go from there then. We'll assume Luka's going to be out tonight. Jalen Brunson at 22.5 points. He dropped 24 in his last game against Utah. We had talked about Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie at great length the last time we did one of these live streams. In case you weren't here for that, let's go ahead and take a look at it again. So what we did was we took Luka Doncic off the floor. We took Tim Hardaway Jr. off the floor. All right. And then we're going to bump Jalen Brunson down to 22.5 points. And then we were just looking at a 2-game sample. It was only a 2-game sample at the time. Now it's a 3-game sample. These are 3 games played by Jalen Brunson since Kristaps Porzingis was traded for Spencer Dinwiddie, right? With Luka out and Tim Hardaway Jr. out, Jalen Brunson is now 3 for 3. He's hit 23 points against Sacramento. We talked about what an easy matchup that one was for him. Then he had 28 against Houston. And then, of course, the last game, which we just mentioned against Utah 2 nights ago, he dropped 24 points. So he is now 3 for 3 since the Spencer Dinwiddie for Kristaps Porzingis trade in covering his point prop of 22.5 in games without Luka and games without Tim Hardaway Jr. Now, there's a little bit of debate. Do we go Spencer Dinwiddie points or do we go Jalen Brunson points? Because both of the guys were at 20.5 points in the first game against Utah. I was more on the let's take Jalen Brunson over points. I feel like he's the better scorer between the two guys. And Brunson ended up coming through. So anyway, if you just isolate these 3 games, we've now got a 3-game sample size. 3 games since the Porzingis for Dinwiddie swap. Brunson's covered 22.5 points in all 3 of those games without Luka, without Tim Hardaway Jr. on the floor. So pretty decent hit rate, right? 3 for 3, 100%. And then we could go back and look at what he's done against Utah. He's played Utah twice now without Luka, without THJ on the floor. The first time that he played him was back on Christmas. I don't know if Porzingis was in or out for that game. I know he was still with the Mavericks, though, back in December. Nonetheless, Brunson had himself a nice game there, 27 against Utah on Christmas Day. So he is now 2 for 2 against Utah in games without Luka and THJ. So there you go. I mean, he's been doing a pretty good job at scoring the basketball, whether it be against Utah, whether it be against other opponents without Luka, without THJ. I mean, he's been doing a pretty good job. So I can see why you guys might be on some might be on some Jalen Brunson over on points again at 22.5 as long as Luka's out. Still looks like a pretty strong way to go. We've talked about the Utah defense before. Don't really need to go too far into it. All you need to know is there's a lot of red and a lot of yellow on the board. And in case you're unfamiliar with how props.cash works, red mean bad, green mean good, and yellow mean okay, average matchup. All right, so you're getting a lot of bad and average here matchup-wise. But nonetheless, Brunson, high volume guy. I mean, he shot the basketball quite a bit. Played over 40 minutes the last time he played Utah a couple nights ago. Shot the ball 24 times. So if he's going to get that kind of volume again, then I think we just got to keep going back to Jalen Brunson as long as Luka's out. 38% field goal percentage. I think he can improve on that. 9 of 24. So if he comes out and shoots it 24 times again and he hits a couple more shots, 10 or 11 for 24 would be even better, right? Anyway, let's move forward. I think Brunson looks like he's in a pretty decent spot. Point guards, shooting guards versus the Utah Jazz over the last 7 games. How many points are the Jazz giving up to both positions? It's not a whole lot, but it's enough for us to feel all right. Utah giving up over 22, nearly 23 points per game. You kind of see where they rank. Down toward the bottom 10 in the league, so not the easiest matchup in the world. We look at the shooting guard spot. I like to look at both because you got Dinwiddie, you got Brunson. Both of these guys kind of interchangeable, right? Both of them kind of combo guards. We're just going to call them guards, a generic term, guards. Utah giving up about 21 points per game to shooting guards. So they're giving 20 to 21 to 22 points per game up to point guards, shooting guards, any type of guard, right? And we saw him get it done against Utah already in the first game. Maybe we just click the rinse and repeat button and Jalen Brunson runs it back and gets it done for us tonight. His projection tonight is just 19.1. That's according to Action Labs. Action Labs is a premium projection site. They have fantasy point props. They've got single stat player prop projections and stuff like that. Got to pay for it. But if you want a free site, check out NumberFire, check out Betting Pros, check out RotoWire. I can't say that their projections and models are as good as Fantasy Labs, but it's another way for you to kind of cross-reference some of these projections on these different props. So I've got him at 19.1. Check some of these other sites, see where he's at over there. Now, looking at the lines, there's a lot of value to looking at the different sports books, how people are betting the props over there, what the prop lines are set at. I've been doing really well with MLB doing this for strikeouts, so it's definitely worth taking a look at some of these sports books, which we do in every single video, by the way. Every single live stream, I always reference the sports books because I like to see how the betting public is doing. I like to see how these different sports books compare to PrizePicks in terms of how they set their lines. In this case, most of the books you're going to find out there have him at 22.5 points, which is where he's at on PrizePicks. But there is at least one book that believes 23.5 points is the way to go, meaning they think Brunson can go for 23 to 24 points as a possible outcome. So compared to FanDuel, we're getting 1 point of value on PrizePicks. At 22.5 on the sports books, he's like a 125, minus 125, minus 115, minus 120 betting favorite to go over at 22.5. So there is a little bit of value versus a site like FanDuel. Get him at 22.5. So there you go. That's Jalen Brunson points for Antoine and everybody else who was asking. Appreciate everybody dropping the likes. JC says there's 86 people watching. We've only got 55 likes. You know the goal for me is always going to be, I'm setting the like goal at 99.5 likes, and I'm always going to take the over because I have complete and utter faith in all of you folks out there that we can hit the over. What other points props do you guys want to take a look at? I see Chad is mentioning Bogdanovich. And my man Bogdanovich apparently is celebrating a birthday. I did not know these things. I was not privy to this information prior to my man Everyday Fantasy, aka Don P111, in our private Discord channels, bringing that to my attention. So he wants to go Bogdanovich. We got birthday narrative here on Bogey. So let's take a look at my man Bogdanovich. He came out blazing hot the last time he took the floor. He was lighting the Dallas Mavericks up. They really didn't have an answer for him all game long. So the last 10 games for Bogdanovich at 18.5 points, he's sporting a 70% hit rate. I'm actually kind of surprised that the Lions makers haven't bumped him up a little bit to like 19.5 on any of these sports books or anything like that. So nice hit rate, 70% hit rate. He's averaging 22.4 points per game in the last 10. We look at what he's done against Dallas. 4 matchups now. For Bogdanovich versus the Mavericks, he seems to play pretty well against the Mavs. He's 3 for 4 now in covering 18.5 points. And the one game that he did not cover, he still had a strong 18 points. Meaning he was right there. He was right there in the neighborhood of 18 to 19 points. So overall this season in 4 matchups, averaging over 22 points per game against this Dallas Mavericks squad. We saw a lot of Dorian Finney-Smith on Donovan Mitchell, which kind of left Bogdanovich. Who was guarding him? Was it Reggie Bullock? I don't think they really had an answer, man. Jalen Brunson? Not really a defender. Kind of small. Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, who's going to check this dude? I don't know if they really have a matchup. Maybe they're going to let Bogdanovich get his and try to slow Mitchell down. That could be one path to victory for the Dallas defense. Anyway, 3 for 4, looking pretty good, averaging over 22 points per game. As far as the Mavericks defense, they're a pretty staunch defensive unit in their own right, which is why we have an implied total of just 205 points between these two teams. Both teams good defensively. Both teams play at a slow pace. So not expecting a whole lot of points to be scored here between these two ball clubs. Nonetheless, Dallas does have a weak point, and it is against small forwards like Bogdanovich. They rank just 23rd against opposing small forwards. So Bogdanovich looks to have the Dallas Mavericks number in the 4 matchups that he's faced them. So let's go look at the small forward spot. We're looking at the last 7 games. We want to see how many points per game Dallas is giving up to small forwards. And again, it is pretty apparent that they do not guard the small forward position very well. They're giving up over 23 points per game, nearly 24 points per game to opposing small forwards, which puts them right outside the top 10 most points allowed per game over the last 7 games. So Bogdanovich, again, should be probably considered, should be on your radar tonight. As far as a projection for him, I have him projected for 20.4 points. Worth noting, I'm looking at the sports books. He's at 19.5 points on most sports books out there. 19.5 points on most sports books. There's only one book that has him at 18.5, and it's FanDuel. Now, at 18.5, he's a slight betting favorite to go over. At 19.5, they're taking the under. But the fact that we're seeing him at 19.5 on most of the sites and 18.5 on PrizePicks means this is a little bit of value right here at 18.5 points on Bogdanovich. So there you go. I think Bogey's looking kind of sweet. Kind of sweet. What other point prop are we looking at? Ricky, you're talking about Brunson at 21.5. Yeah, we just discussed Brunson. He looks like he's still in a good spot, even at 22.5. We've seen Brunson up at 23.5 on some of the books. What other points props do you guys want me to take a look at? Don P, Mr. Everyday Fantasy's wanting to look at Rudy Gobert at 13.5 points. Now, I got to be honest with you. Can I be honest with you? I don't know what Rudy Gobert did in the first game. So we got to pull him up and take a look at the game logs for Rudy Gobert. I know he had been scoring the basketball really well, but it looks like things came to a screeching halt against Dallas in game 1. He finished with just 5 points. You go back and you look at the previous 6 games. He had 18, 16, 20, 22, 14, and 25. He had a nice little hit streak going. Now, I don't know if he's going to bounce back or not against Dallas. Not quite sure. But I can tell you this, against Dallas this season, his role has not been one of a scorer. He's had a floor of 5 points, which is what he had in the last game, a ceiling of just 14. So he'd have to have a ceiling type of game versus Dallas tonight to hit the over at 13.5 points. He's only done it 1 out of 4 games. So that's a 25% hit rate. Not very good. Averaging 10.3 points per game against this Dallas Mavericks ball club. Now we move forward here. We take a look at the center position once again. We could go take a look and see how many points Dallas is allowing to opposing centers over the last 7 games. On paper, it looks pretty good. I mean, it says they're giving up about 30 points per game to centers. I don't know where those points were for Rudy Gobert, but he didn't have anything close to 30 points, okay? Bad game for Gobert in terms of scoring. I don't really like taking Gobert for scoring props. If you think Gobert has even a mildly average type of scoring night, let's see he gets about 10 points, you might just want to go ahead and take his fantasy points at 55.94 per game. Dallas has given up quite a few fantasy points per game to opposing centers. We know Gobert is good for the blocks. He can get his hands on some steals too. He's a pretty decent stocks guy, steals and blocks guy. So if you want to play Gobert, I would say stay away from just the pure points. Maybe you take a PRA prop or fantasy. This guy's got major block and steal upside. I think I ended up playing his steals and blocks because he's hit his steals and blocks against Dallas. I want to say in like every game that he's played this season against them. Yeah. At 2.5 steals and blocks, he's 4 for 4 at covering 2.5 steals and blocks against the Mavericks this season. So I'd probably say consider playing his fantasy points, being that he's getting 3 or more steals and blocks per game against this Mavericks ball club. 4 different times that he's played them, 3 or more steals and blocks. So I think Gobert makes for a fine fantasy point play, but I wouldn't take his pure points. It's just not there. Hasn't been there in any of the previous matchups against Dallas. He had one game where he barely limped over at 13.5 points. So there you go. Rudy G for me, probably not going to be a points play. Going to be one of those PRA or fantasy points type of guys. But if you want to play his points, 17.4 is his projected points output. At 13.5, we're seeing the public take the over. At 14.5 on some of these sites, they're betting the under. So not my favorite way to play Gobert. You know, let's stick to guys who are good at doing what they do. In this case, Gobert, good rebounder, right? Good defender. Steals and blocks probably in play. The rebounds in play. Don't know if I want to go there. Not really a guy who scores a whole lot. Let's see here. Which other point prop do we want to take? Aaron Rodgers saying, why would you ever take Rudy Gobert for points? His teammates don't even like him. Ouch. Sad but true. JHY wants to take a peek at Tyrese Maxey. We talked about Tyrese Maxey at the top of the show. Tyrese Maxey stole the show for the Philadelphia 76ers. He was their guy. Their guy is putting it mildly. Tyrese Maxey had himself a fantastic game against the Raptors. Can he run it back, though? Will he repeat that success once again? Let's take a look at it. Last 10 games for Tyrese Maxey at 18.5 points. You're going to see 50%, but when we isolate it down to just the last 5 games, you're going to see a 80% hit rate, which is a lot better, right? The only game he didn't hit was against Indiana, but even in that game, he finished with 18 points, coming really close to that 18.5 point prop that he set at today. So we've seen Maxey go over 18.5 points by quite a bit in 4 out of his last 5 games. I mean, 30 against Indiana, 22 against tonight's opponent, Toronto, 25 against Detroit. And then, of course, as we mentioned, his big 38 bomb that he dropped on the Dinosaurs 2 nights ago. So last 5 games have been good to him. 26.6 point per game average. He's at 18.5. He needs 19 for the over. Against the Raptors this season, if we look at just the games played against Toronto, he's hit the over 4 out of 5 games against the Raptors as well, averaging 23.4 points per game. So an 80% hit rate against the Raptors. An 80% hit rate in his last 5 games. 2 of those games included matchups against tonight's opponent, the Toronto Raptors. So, I think Maxey's in a pretty good spot. Then we factor in that no Scotty Barnes, possibly no Gary Trent Jr. We've got to keep an eye on his injury status, and maybe things get even easier for Tyrese Maxey this game. This Toronto defense, though, pretty decent squad overall. They rank 7th in total points allowed, and then they're kind of middle of the pack, average in every other defensive metric. Field goal percentage, three-point percentage, free throws allowed, and point guard defense. So I think Maxey could be in another good spot tonight. Looking at the shooting guard spot, we'll look at both, actually. We'll start with point guard because him and James Harden, both kind of tweeners, right? Both kind of combo guards, so to speak. But the last 7 games, point guards and points allowed by the Raptors are giving up over 24 points per game, nearly 25. 24.6 to be exact to point guards in the last 7. We look at the shooting guard spot. The Raptors are giving up over 23 points per game to opposing shooting guards. So both guard spots look like they're in a pretty good matchup here versus the Raptors. He needs 19. They're giving up 23 and 24 to 25 per game to point guards and shooting guards. So they're giving up some points, gang. They are giving up some points. Tyrese Maxey's projection tonight, 20.8, nearly 21 points. At 18.5, we're seeing some juice, some action on the over. Minus 125 at 18.5, minus 130 on some books. Minus 121 on others. So, yeah, I think Maxey's in a pretty sweet spot. What other point props from tonight's games do you want me to take a look at? We're focused on points. We'll move on from there, though, and then talk some assists, some rebounds, some PRA, and so on and so forth. Nick's Rashad for Life says, can you find somebody on Toronto for us? Well, I mean, for me, the most obvious place to go would be Pascal Siakam. He just has seemingly had the Philadelphia 76ers number this season. Let's look at Siakam real quick. I think he's in a pretty good spot against Philly. They haven't really defended him well at all this year. So let's look at Pascal Siakam. He's at 25.5 points, kind of a rich number, right? But then when you factor in Scotty Barnes out, maybe Gary Trent Jr. out, these other guys, Siakam, Van Vliet, Anunoby, these dudes are going to have to soak up that usage, soak up some of those shots that have been abandoned by Barnes and by Gary Trent Jr. I think undoubtedly Siakam's my favorite guy on the Raptors. He seems to be the lead dog there for the Toronto Raptors, or the lead dino, whatever you want to call them. You know, they're the Raptors, dinosaurs. But anyway, over the last 10 games, he's hit the over in 6 out of 10. He finished this season really strong in the last 5, going over 25.5 points in 4 out of his last 5 games, averaging 30 points per game in his last 5. One of those games was against Philadelphia. He put up 37 points against the Sixers in that one. Now, obviously, they just played in game 1. He only had 24 points in that game. Let's take a look at what he's done against Philadelphia this season. He's hit the over against Philly in 3 out of 4 games, a 75% hit rate, while averaging over 28, nearly 29 points per game against the Sixers this season. We take a look at the minutes. They're definitely there, 41, almost 42, 36, 37. And then the last game that he played, nearly 40 minutes played in that one. I'd like to see his field goal attempts get up there a little bit more than 18. I'd like to see him shoot it 20 plus times. I think if he does that, then we're in the clear here on the over. I mean, he finished with 24 points on 18 field goal attempts. Had a nice percentage, 50%. I mean, he shot 50% or better in all 4 games against Philadelphia. So if he can get the shots up to 20 or more, which should happen, right? Without Scotty Barnes, potentially without Gary Trent Jr., maybe he shoots the ball a couple more times in this game. If he can maintain that 50% field goal percentage that he's had against Philadelphia across 4 games this season, I think he's in a good spot to hit the over. Again, one more bucket made here against Philly, he's over, right? With 26 points or 27 points if it's a 3. But anyway, looked like a pretty decent matchup. He seems to have had Philadelphia's number so far this season in 4 different matchups. One other thing that we could do, let's go back to the season view here. Let's just play pretend here. Let's take Scotty Barnes out. With Scotty Barnes out at 25.5 points, Siakam played 5 games. He's hit the over on 25.5 points without Barnes in 2 out of 5 games. One of those games was against Philadelphia back on December 28th. Let's see what happens if we take Barnes and Trent out. Probably a very small sample size, but let's see if we have any games. Okay, we have 2 games to look at. 2 games that he's played this season without Barnes, without Trent, pending Gary Trent Jr. is truly out in those games. 22 against a tough Phoenix Suns squad, so you have to consider the opponent there. Phoenix, obviously a really tough team. And then he had 30 against a tough Milwaukee Bucks squad. So 22 in one game, 30 in the other. Those are the only two games that he's played this season without Barnes and without Gary Trent Jr. So he's got a 50% hit rate, and he's averaging 26 points per game in those 2 games. So I think he's got a decent chance here against Philadelphia tonight. Anyway, moving forward here, Siakam, I believe, started at center. They ended up going with a small ball lineup. Siakam at the 5. I don't know what their lineup's going to look like tonight. Maybe they throw a bigger body in there. Maybe they put Precious Achiuwa in at center. Maybe they use Khem Birch in there to be a foul machine. He's got some pretty good size on him. Not that he's going to slow Joel Embiid down, but he's got some pretty decent size on him. So maybe they throw Khem Birch in the starting lineup. I don't know which way they're going to go tonight. But we'll take a look at both center and power forward spots because Siakam more than likely will be at one of those 2 spots. So the center position, Philadelphia, last 7 games, as far as points allowed to the center position, they're giving up 26.93, almost 27 points per game, which is inside the top 10 most points per game on average to the center position. So if Siakam starts again at center, he's in a pretty decent spot. He did pick up quite a few fouls yesterday, and I mentioned that in our last live stream, that maybe if he's guarding Joel Embiid, he could get into some foul trouble. But nonetheless, if he starts at power forward, say they go with a Khem Birch or Precious Achiuwa at the 5, then Siakam would spend more time at power forward. They're giving up about 23 points per game to opposing power forwards in the last 7 games too. So the front court seems to be a weakness for the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, not really slowing anybody down in terms of points. Anyway, we move forward. We take a look at Pascal Siakam. His projection today is 25.6 points. That's slightly more than 25.5 for those of you keeping track at home. 25.6, slightly more than 25.5, so closer to 26 points than it is 25 points. At 25.5 across the industry today, slight betting favorite to go over at 25.5. So Siakam might be on the radar for a play. Jeremiah says that Achiuwa will be guarding Embiid. And Siakam versus Harris. Well, listen, I don't know about you, but I've been watching basketball for a while. Tobias Harris has never struck fear into the hearts of the opposing teams as far as defense goes. So, Siakam versus Tobias Harris, I ain't mad at that. I like that matchup. Agent Zero, you're talking about some OG Anunoby at 16.5 points. I mean, we've seen OG go off. He's got scoring upside. So Anunoby might be worth looking at 16.5 points. We'll pull up his game logs. Let's see what happens when we take Scotty Barnes out. We'll check that out. Would you? This season, 6 games played without Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby at 16.5 points has hit the over in every single game, a 100% hit rate. 36, 21, 26, 25, 24, and 24, averaging exactly 26 points per game in those 6 games this season without Scotty Barnes on the court. He needs 17 tonight. Averaging 26, that's 9 points more without Scotty Barnes. Now let's see what happens if we take Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr. off the floor. Let's see if we have any games to look at for that. 2 games without Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr. He is 2 for 2, putting up 25 against a tough Phoenix Suns squad, 24 against a tough Milwaukee Bucks squad, averaging 24.5 points in those 2 games. So OG Anunoby, killing the game without Scotty Barnes, still killing the game without Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent. 6 for 6 without Barnes this season, over 16.5 points. 2 for 2, over 16.5 points without Barnes and Trent. What y'all think about that? What do you think about that? Now let's put Scotty Barnes back in the mix. Let's just take a look and see how OG has done against Philadelphia this season. Well, with Barnes, with Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby 2 for 2 against the Philadelphia 76ers, dropping 20 points per game in both matchups. So he's 2 for 2. I'm seeing a lot of green, guys. I'm not a salesman. I'm not here to tell you what to pick, what to play, but I'm seeing a lot of green based on what I'm looking at here. 2 for 2 against Philadelphia this season. 6 for 6 in games without Scotty Barnes on the floor. 2 for 2 in games with Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr. off the floor. 100% hit rates across the board here. So 16.5 points seems a little light, a little underweight for OG Anunoby. If I was setting the lines, man, I'd probably have him up there closer to 18.5. I'm just saying. Anyway, there you go. OG Anunoby looking kind of sweet. Looking kind of sweet. He's just got to go out there and get the job done. Philadelphia's defense, some red, some yellow. Where they struggle is against opposing small forwards, ranking dead last in the league, 30th against opposing small forwards. So it's boding very well here, very well for OG Anunoby. Looking at the 76ers in terms of points allowed to small forwards, they're giving up over 24 points per game over the last 7 games. Again, he needs 17. They're giving up over 24. It's just looking really damn good right now, my friends. Looking really, really good. 17.7 is the projected points for OG Anunoby, according to the action projection tool. And at 16.5, he is being bet over right now on most books. Minus 120, minus 122. The only site that he's being bet under on is BetMGM right now. So, for whatever reason. Nick's Rashad for Life says, we cracked the code. Let's go. Let's go. Well, there you go, man. OG looking like a sweet little pick. D Grave saying, OG's the gym tonight. So you guys are messing with it, huh? All right. Any other points props? Last call on the points props. I'll take 1 or 2 more and then we'll move on, talk some assists. Drop me another point prop if you want me to take a look at one. Point. Not assists, points. Jeremiah wants to look at some Jordan Poole. We could do that. Jordan Poole, I do believe he ended up drawing the start last game. And then they had Steph Curry coming up off of the bench. Few of us said Van Vliet. All right, Ricky, sorry I missed that. We'll talk about Van Vliet in just a moment. Jordan Poole did draw the start for Golden State, I believe. And then Curry ended up coming off of the bench. Let's take a look at Poole because he did have himself a pretty good scoring night. Despite the fact that old Steph Curry was in the mix, in the rotation. Had 30 points against Denver. The last 10 games for Jordan Poole at 21.5 points. He has hit the over in 80% of those games. 8 out of 10. Really sweet hit rates there. Averaging 22.2 in the last 5. 25.5 in the last 10. And then against Denver this season, he's averaging 24.5. He's hit the over against Denver in 2 out of 4 games. So I think the biggest question mark why more people probably weren't on Jordan Poole's points was we weren't real sure what was going to happen with Steph Curry. We heard Steph Curry was going to play. We heard he was available. We just weren't sure if he was going to start, how many minutes he was going to get, etc., etc. And I'm not sure if they're looking to ramp his minutes up a little bit more. Maybe he starts to take on a slightly larger minutes load, slightly larger workload as these games in this series progress. Or maybe they continue to monitor Curry's minutes, keep him down somewhat, and just lean on Jordan Poole and save Curry for the next series. I don't know how they're going to approach it. Steve Kerr can be a tricky guy sometimes. But nonetheless, 2 for 4 hit rate, averaging over 24.5 points per game against Denver this season. As far as defense goes, Denver Nuggets, not a real scary team defensively. 14th in points allowed, 21st in field goal percentage, 9th in 3-point shots made, 10th in 3-point field goal percentage, 14th in free throws allowed, and 30th dead last against opposing shooting guards. Although I'd have to call Poole more of a point guard. So let's go take a look at how many points per game Denver's been giving up to point guards in the last 7 games. Over 23 per game, nearly 24 per game. So he needs 22. They're giving up almost 24 per game. He's in a good spot. I guess I don't really have to tell you that. Shooting guards against the Nuggets, they're giving up over 24 points per game. I know some people were high on Klay Thompson's points last game. I tried to talk you guys out of that with Steph Curry being back. Klay was at 23.5 points. He did not go over. I don't believe he went over. He's at 23.5 again. Yeah, he only had 19. He fell short. But you guys were falling in love with the previous 3 games where he had 36, 33, and 41. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Jordan Poole, 21.5 points. He's in a good spot. We're not really scared of the Denver Nuggets defense. As far as the projection goes, 22.2 projected points tonight. He's at 21.5 on one sportsbook. That's DraftKings. On other books, he's at 22.5. So maybe the 21.5, there's a little value there when you compare it to sites like FanDuel and PointsBet. So there you go. Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole. Travis H. Rest in peace, bad guy. Yeah. Rest in peace to the bad guy, Scott Hall. That was a while ago, though. Anyway. Some of you guys were asking about Fred VanVleet for points. Listen, it's been hard to trust Fred VanVleet lately. I don't know what's up with him. I think low-key he's got some sort of little ailment or injury or something, or maybe it's all in his head, but you guys want to look at Fred VanVleet, we'll look at him. It ain't going to be pretty, though. What we will see will probably not be pretty. Let's do this first. Let's look at the season view. Let's go ahead and take Scotty Barnes off the floor. So 5 games played without Scotty Barnes at 20.5 points. He's covered in 3 out of 5. So he's hitting more than he's missing, 60% hit rate. Now games without Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr., he's only hit the over at 20.5 points in 1 out of 2. Again, small sample size, just 2 games. But for me, man, it has been hard to trust Fred VanVleet in terms of scoring. And the reason I say that is because if we put those guys back in the mix, Barnes and Trent Jr., and we go look at the last 10 games for Fred VanVleet, dude is 1 for 10 at covering 20.5 points over the last 10 games. He did have 29 against Miami. I took him against Atlanta. I believe it might have been this April 5th game. He shot the hell out of the ball. He shot the ball a lot, and he's been shooting the ball a lot. His field goal attempts and minutes and stuff have been there, guys. He's averaging 36.6 minutes per game over the last 10 games. We scroll down, we take a look at his field goal attempts. They're always pretty healthy. Last 10 games averaging over 15 field goal attempts per game. I mean, he shot it 21 times against a bad Atlanta defense, went 4 for 21 with a 19% field goal percentage. So I mean, it's just been really, really hard to trust Fred VanVleet. Do I like him more than OG Anunoby? Hell to the no. To the no. I do not. I think OG Anunoby looks like a better play. One that I trust more anyway. I could be wrong, but listen, we're riding with the data and the hit rates, and things look sweet for OG Anunoby. When we look at Fred VanVleet versus Philadelphia this season, he has played them twice. He did have 32 points, but that was back in November. Now, he just played them a couple days ago, 18 points there. He went under 20.5 in that game. And I think his prop line was at, 18.5 as well, 19.5, something like that. He went under that as well. So I don't trust Fred VanVleet. That is just me. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm jaded by this young man. But it's been hard for me to trust him. Philadelphia, in terms of points allowed to the point guard position over the last 7 games, they're giving up the 4th fewest points per game to point guards in the last 7 games at about 21 per game, which means Fred VanVleet would have to find nearly every point that the Philadelphia 76ers are giving up to point guards in that 7-game span. That is asking a lot. I don't love the matchup for Fred VanVleet. It's either going to be an under or a fade for me. He's projected for 23.4 points, which is more than 20.5. But again, projection shouldn't be what you hang your hat on, right? At 20.5, we're seeing a little bit of action. Some of these books, nothing really moving too much. Like DraftKings, he's even money. BetMGM, even. A site like PointsBet, he's a minus 135. PointsBet's always weird. I don't know why, but they always seem to have different odds, different lines. But like FanDuel, minus 116 over. I don't know. I'm fading Fred VanVleet. I don't trust that guy at all. At all. Let's see here. Everyday fantasy with the MLB strikeout update. Top of the third. Both Bundy and Hill with 2 Ks each. Love it. I didn't take them, but if you guys got in on some early degenerate MLB action, then maybe you're feeling pretty good about those early strikes. Yeah, Jeremiah says PointsBet is weird. It's confusing. I agree. Yeah, I'm not taking Fred VanVleet. I think that's pretty much the consensus, though. All right, let's move on from points. I'm not going to get to everybody's questions, unfortunately. One man with only so much time in his day. If you're in Discord, in Patreon, though, feel free to send me a message. Post it in the NBA chat. We'll tackle it as a community. The party doesn't have to stop here is what I'm trying to tell you guys. When the live stream ends, that doesn't mean that the party ends, is what I'm trying to tell you. Assist props. I saw you guys also mention Fred VanVleet for some assists. Let's just take a look at some of the hit rates for the assist guys here on the board. Last 10 games, highest hit rates. You got Jordan Poole, Pascal Siakam, Tobias Harris, Monty Morris, all at a 70% hit rate. Then you got Fred VanVleet at 60%. AG, Aaron Gordon, 50% hit rate, along with Will Barton at 50%, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, OG Anunoby, all at 50%. And then it really starts to get ugly from there, 40% or below for the rest of these dudes. So we'll start things off with Fred VanVleet. If we don't trust him for scoring, if we don't trust his points, then maybe we trust him elsewhere. And maybe the assists are the better look for Fred VanVleet. So he's at 6 today. When we bump him down to 6 on props.cash, you can see that he's hit 6 or more assists in 7 out of his last 10 games. So that's a 70% hit rate, or 67% hit rate, 6 for 9, and actually going over 6 assists, 7 or better. The average is looking pretty good, averaging 6.7 for the season, 6.3 in the last 10, 6.6 in his last 5, and 6.5 versus Philly this season. So against Philadelphia, he's hit 6 or more assists in both games that he's played. 7 back in November, 6 2 nights ago. So I'm not trusting Fred VanVleet with my money in terms of scoring. But maybe we trust the assists a little bit more. It's looking better. I think already we can all agree that his assists are looking better than his points so far. We could also go back to the season view. We could remove the likes of Scotty Barnes. And when we do that and we bump his Fred VanVleet's assist line down to 6, you can see he's hit 6 or more in 4 out of 5 games. Technically, it's an 80% hit rate at 6 or better. As far as going over 6 assists, he has done that in 3 out of 4. So pretty good hit rates here. I think it looks like a pretty good move. We take Gary Trent Jr. off the floor, and we could see what he's done in 2 games. With Gary Trent Jr. and Scotty Barnes out, he's 1 out of 2. Had 5 against Phoenix, 7 against Milwaukee. So 50% hit rate. But yeah, I feel better about Fred VanVleet already for his assist prop. Point guards against the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers over the last 7 games, giving up about 7.2 assists per game to point guards. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but he needs just 6 for the tie, 7 for the over. So it's the 3rd fewest in the last 7 games. And then we'll take a look at the assist projection. I got him projected for 7.6. He is at 6.5 dimes on pretty much every book out there. So we're getting about a half of an assist value, being that he's at 6 assists over on PrizePicks. But at 6.5, they are smashing the under. Minus 150, minus 130 on a lot of these sites. So there's a real chance that if you take Fred VanVleet at 6 assists, he could end up in a tie or a push. But I would probably say lean toward the over, but don't be surprised if he lands on exactly 6. So, yeah, I ain't touching the points, though. What other assist props? I see Vincent Jefferson. I see Wayne's World. I see Everyday Fantasy. You guys are all liking some Monty Morris assist props. We could get down with some Monty Morris. Let's see what Monty Morris has been up to. We talked about his hit rates at 4.5 assists. He's up there at 70%. Where's he at on PrizePicks today? He's at 4. Okay. 4.5 on the books, probably 4 on PrizePicks. Let's dig into Monty Morris's assist props a little bit more here. Last 10 games for Monty Morris at 4 assists. He's hit 4 or more in 9 out of his last 10 games. 90% technically at 4 or better. I ain't mad at that. I think we lean toward the over here, being that he's shown some assist upside of 9, 10, 6 in multiple games. He's got some assist upside in him. The only game that he did not hit in the last 10 was against San Antonio back on April 5th. Otherwise, averages for the season, 4.5. Averages for the last 10, very healthy at 5.7. The last 5 especially, averaging 6 per game. And then we take a look at what he's done against Golden State this season at 4 assists. He's hit the over against GSW in 3 out of 4. So a 75% hit rate. Not too shabby at all for Monty Morris. I mean, he had 6, 7, just 1 on March 10th. But the last time he played them, 2 nights ago, 6 assists dropped by Monty on that one. So I'm kind of surprised that the public seems to be betting the under on Monty Morris with such a nice hit rate against Golden State. Golden State's defense, they do rank second in total assists allowed, giving up less than 23 dimes per game. If we go take a look at the point guard position and assists given up by Golden State in the last 7 games, the Warriors, how many are they giving up? Golly, I go blind sometimes. 9.5 per game. Sorry about that. They're giving up about 9.5 assists per game, which puts them just outside the top 10, probably like right around the top 12. But anyway, they're in the top half of the league. So they're giving up quite a few assists. He's got a pretty good success rate against them this season. I don't mind Monty Morris over 4 assists from what I'm seeing. As far as a projection on Monty Morris, he is projected for 5.3. We're getting him at 4.5 on all the sports books. And as I thought, at 4.5, they are smashing the under. Minus 160, minus 140, minus 155 on some of these books. But for me, being that we're getting him at 4, I, again, would lean toward the over. And just like Fred VanVleet, you could end up in a tie or a push. So there's that for you. A couple of you folks mentioning some James Harden assists. Let's look at the beard. Mr. Harden, he's at 11 today. I think he was at 10.5. Was he at 10.5 the first time that these guys played? 10.5. Some of you folks are saying, I'm not touching James Harden's assists tonight. I ain't going there. Well, let's look at it. Let's see why you might be saying that. Let's just see. Got to do our due diligence here. We bump him up to 11 assists, and his hit rates over the last 10 games don't change. He's still at 50%. Really, when you look at the last 6 games for Harden, he's 5 out of 6 at going over 11 assists. He's really been dropping a lot of dimes here. His average for the last 5 games, 13.4. It'll be slightly higher when you look at the last 6 games. Don't know the exact number because math is hard. But yeah, looking pretty good here. Then against Toronto this season, he's played them 4 times. He's hit the over in 2 out of 4. Most recent games, he had 15 and 14. So technically, if we shave off that first game, November 7th, because he was still with Brooklyn then, keep that in mind. He's played Toronto 3 times since joining the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's really 2 for 3, 67% hit rate. 8, 15, and 14 in those contests. So we're not seeing the 30-plus point type of scoring games out of James Harden anymore. He seems to be taking on more of a true hybrid role where he's a scorer, but he's not a score-first guard anymore. I mean, he's dropping dimes. He's doing a little bit of everything, which has always been the MO for James Harden, doing a little bit of everything. But I think his assists right now, The last several games are higher than they've ever been. Anyway, against Toronto, the Raptors are giving up over 11 assists per game to point guards, which is the fourth highest assists per game average to point guards in that 7-game span. Over 11 per game. He needs at least 11 to push. 12 would be ideal. We'll also take a peek at the shooting guard spot. Toronto giving up about 5.5 per game to shooting guards. That's more of Tyrese Maxey's role. So I'm looking more at the point guard position. So the matchup's looking very good here. It's a green or plus or positive matchup for Harden. As far as his projected assists, I got him close to 12 at 11.9. He's at 10.5 on most of the books, being bet over at minus 135, even minus 139 on some of these other books. So I think Harden is in a position, in a spot, matchup-wise, hit rates, historical matchups versus tonight's opponent where, we could take a shot on him at 11 assists and maybe we hit the over. We'll refresh the PrizePicks board because, prop lines be moving. They definitely be moving. Let's see. We'll take like one or two more assist props and then we'll move on. One or two more assist props and then we'll move on. Suave Los says Donovan Mitchell assists. Which way you wanting to go? Over or under? Over or under? And then we'll take a look at Siakam because I see David. David's mentioning Siakam. All right, let's look at Donovan Mitchell. We had a super chat the other day come through from Desmond. He was really on Donovan Mitchell going under 5.5 assists. Well, today we're getting Donovan Mitchell at 5 assists. So it's another one of these props that could end up in a tie or a push. Donovan Mitchell broke our hearts if you took the under on the 5.5 assists late in that game versus Dallas. It was death by hook. We bump him down to 5 assists and take a look at his hit rates. He's hit 5 or more assists in 6 out of his last 10 games. So technically that's a 60% hit rate. Looking at just the last 5 at 5 assists, he's hit 5 or better in 4 out of the last 5. So an 80% hit rate. So he's always seemingly flirting with the 5 to 7 to 6 assists output, right? Last 5 games, he's averaging 5.2 versus Dallas this season at 5 assists. He's hit 5 or better in 3 out of 5 games. He's definitely going to have the ball in his hands a lot. High usage guy for the Utah Jazz, obviously. Moving forward here, taking a look at the shooting guard spot. Shooting guards versus the Dallas Mavericks last 7 games. Dallas has given up about 3.8. We round that up. We call it 4. The matchup looks kind of tough on paper, right? But Donovan Mitchell, the sneaky little snake that he is, he's actually a spider. Sneaky little spider that he is. Ended up, like I said, hitting the over on a funky little, it was a Royce O'Neal pump fake, sidestep, 3-point make toward the end of the game in the 4th quarter. And they counted it as an assist. It was whack. It was super whack. Royce O'Neal, pump fake, sidestep, 3-ball for Donovan Mitchell's 6 assists. Lame. But that's the breaks. Mitchell's projected assists today, 6.1 at 5.5. He is a betting favorite to go under on most of these sites. Minus 150, minus 140, even minus 155. A lot of juice. A lot of juice coming in on the under on Donovan Mitchell at 5.5. So David's talking Siakam. Siakam without Barnes. Siakam without Barnes. So let's go back to these Raptors. With these guys being out, there's going to be some value opening up. So we go to the season view on props.cash. By the way, if you're not using props.cash, 25% off your first month of props.cash with code Curry. There's a link down in the description below. Also, you can check out Discord. Totally free for you to join the Discord. I think we're well over 2,000 members in Discord. We got some paid Patreon members in there. We got a lot of free members in there. We're doing giveaways for free entries. All kind of fun stuff going on. I got bots in there that'll help you with your player prop research. Check it out. Discord's free. So link for props.cash to get you your 25% off in the description. Link for Discord down there. Link for Patreon down there. All of that's down there for you guys waiting. Anyway, he's saying, what happens when Scotty Barnes is out and Pascal Siakam's assists are at 6? Well, 5 for 5. He has hit the over on 6 assists in 5 out of 5 games without Scotty Barnes this season. A 100% hit rate. Averaging 8 assists versus Philadelphia. He's played Philly once without Barnes, and he hit the over on the assists in that game. So looking pretty sweet here. So we got Pascal Siakam, 5 for 5 over on his assist prop. We got OG Anunoby, who was like 6 for 6, over 16.5 points. Things looking pretty good for the Toronto Raptors here with some of these guys being ruled out. We could even take it a step further. We could take Gary Trent Jr. out of the mix, and you'll still see that he is 2 for 2. 2 for 2 at going over 6 assists, dropping 7 against Phoenix, 10 against Milwaukee. So that could be a good look too. Pascal Siakam over 6 dimes. Without Barnes, looking really nice. Looking really, really nice. All right, let's move on from assists. I think we've identified some pretty good ones there. Some pretty juicy ones. Talk to me about rebounds. Which rebound props do you guys want me to peek at? I'll do my best to get to as many as possible. You know, we take a few of each and then we keep things rolling. But rebound props, you guys let me know. We could start looking at those. Some of these guys that are really sticking out here like a sore thumb. Jordan Poole at 3.5 boards. I don't see him up on PrizePicks. But at 3.5 rebounds, a 90% hit rate for him over the last 10 games. Steph Curry at 3.5 rebounds. He's got an 80% hit rate. Monty Morris. I don't see him up on the PrizePicks board. But if he was at 2.5 rebounds, a 70% hit rate for him. You got Embiid at 13.5 boards. He's rocking a 70% hit rate over the last 10 games. Rudy Gobert, another big man, at 15.5 rebounds. He's got a 60% hit rate. He's at 15 on PrizePicks today. Golly, that's a huge number. 15.5 boards, 15. That's bonkers. Mind-blowing. Siakam at 8.5 boards, 60% hit rate. You got Danny Green of the Sixers. He's not up on PrizePicks today, but 60% hit rate for him. AG, Mr. Aaron Gordon at 6.5 boards, 60% hit rate there. You got Jokic at 13.5 with a 60% hit rate. Jeff Green, not seeing him up on the PrizePicks board. At 2.5 boards, he's got a 50% hit rate. Will Barton, just a 50% hit rate. James Harden at 6.5 rebounds, 50% hit rate. So it starts to kind of tail off from there. A lot of boards there, though. Timothy Webster. Down in the description of today's video, you will see links for Discord, for Patreon, for Props.Cash, all of those things. All in the description of the video. All right, rebounds. Jeremiah Carter. He wants to go Joel Embiid. And how could you fault him, right? At 13.5 boards, we said Embiid he's got a 70% hit rate. He'll be going up against the likes of Siakam, Achua. Maybe we see a little bit of Kem Birch. Maybe we see some Chris Boucher. Joel Embiid, though, last 10 games has really been crushing the rebounds here. He has been named a finalist for the MVP voting. Him, Jokic, and Giannis, the three that we pretty much assumed would be finalists for the MVP, right? So maybe he continues his dominant ways on the glass, averaging 14.3 rebounds in the last 10, 15 rebounds over the last 5. And we're going to go take a look and see what he's done against Toronto this season. He's played them 4 times. He's only went over 13.5 rebounds in their most recent game just two nights ago. 15 boards in that one. Otherwise, he had 11, 13, and 10 in 3 previous meetings. So is this 15 rebounds a sign of things to come? Will he continue to smash the boards against Toronto in this playoff series? Or did he just have a good night? And we look at the previous games where he kind of struggled to hit the over there, 11, 13, and 10. He's averaging 12.3 in 4 contests versus Toronto this season. As far as the Raptors go, 14th in total rebounds allowed, 16th in offensive, and 12th in defensive rebounds. So just average across the board when it comes to the different rebounding categories. The last 7 games, Toronto against opposing centers. The Raptors are giving up just a shade, just a touch less than 13 rebounds per game at 12.9. That is the 6th fewest rebounds to centers in the last 7 games. So difficult matchup on paper for Embiid. Maybe he got lucky with 15 boards. Maybe he did. Maybe he just had a good night and he'll regress a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. His projections today, according to Action Labs, they've got him at exactly 13.5 rebounds. Now, at 13.5 across the industry on all your favorite sports books out there, he is a betting favorite to go under at minus 120, minus 121 on some sites. So I don't know that it's a home run play over or under for me. Don't know if I love it. It's looking a little tight, that line at 13.5. It's looking a little tight. So I don't know if I want to go there. Sharp line. Cowboys Nation 34. He wants to talk about the other guy that's in the MVP running here. Joker. Nikola Jokic at 14 rebounds. He's going up against Golden State. Game 2 tonight. Game 2. So let's look at Joker real quick. We should have a pretty good sample size Nikola Jokic rebounds versus this Golden State Warriors team. Now, by default, he's at 13.5 on props.cash, so we do have to bump him up to 14. But when we do that, it doesn't really change things a whole lot. The only one that changed was this game against the Clippers. Instead of an over, it's now a push or a tie. Otherwise, Jokic has hit the over on 14 rebounds in 4 out of his last 5 games. But he did struggle against Golden State last game with just 10 boards. Did struggle. In fact, he struggled in the last 2 meetings against Golden State, getting 12 rebounds on March 10th and then 10 the other night. Prior to that, though, 18, 17, and 15, he had dominated Golden State on the glass. So will he get back to doing big Jokic type things tonight? I don't know. Golden State's defense, though, 5th in total rebounds allowed, 6th and 7th in offensive and defensive rebounds allowed. So pretty tough as far as rebounding metrics. But when you look at the center position, the last 7 games, Golden State is giving up over 18.5 boards to opposing centers, which is the 6th most. So he should be in a pretty good spot to get the rebounds, but he hasn't in the last 2 games. Seen his rebounds really fall off. First three matchups against Golden State dominated. Last 2, not so hot. Jokic is projected for nearly 16 boards tonight at 15.8 according to Action Labs. At 13.5, betting favor to go over. Minus 135 and minus 140. A site like PointsBet thinks 14 to 15 rebounds is a very plausible outcome. So they've got his prop line at 14.5. He's at 14 on PrizePicks. But at 14.5, the public's betting the under there. So they're betting the over at 13.5 pretty well, betting the under at 14.5 pretty well. So PrizePicks went ahead and split the difference, and they have him at exactly 14 boards. So there's Nikola Jokic for you. What other rebound props are you guys wanting to look at? I'm taking a peek, seeing what you guys are talking about here. Wayne's World wants to go under on Spencer Dinwiddie at 4.5 rebounds. That is definitely a different look, a different take. We can peek at that one real quick. Dinwiddie at 4.5. Ooh, okay. We go hunting for some overs around here most of the time, but We might have ourselves a decent little underplay at 4.5 rebounds over the last 10 games. Spencer Dinwiddie, 0 for 10. That's 0%. 0% hit rate. That's pretty bad. What about the last 30 games? Just a 27% hit rate. Not great. Against Utah this season, he's played the Jazz 6 times. Most of these games come in... no, most of these games are probably with Dallas, actually. But he's played Utah a total of 6 times this season. He's only won over 4.5 boards 1 out of 6 times. Just a 17% hit rate. So this could be a sexy little underplay. A sexy little underplay. 0 for his last 10. 1 for his last 6 against Utah. We know the Jazz defense. They got some big boys down there, including Rudy Gobert. They rank first in total rebounds allowed, meaning they're giving up the fewest rebounds to opposing teams. 9th in offensive and 1st in defensive rebounds allowed. We go look at the point guard position. Spencer Dinwiddie needs to find 5 boards. They're actually giving up 6.5 rebounds per game to point guards. But that could go to Jalen Brunson. That may not be for Spencer Dinwiddie. That could be Jalen Brunson. Let's look at the shooting guard spot as well. They're giving up 6.7 to shooting guards. So the rebound per game average by the Utah Jazz is actually pretty healthy. They're giving up nearly 7 to shooting guards and nearly 7 to point guards. So on paper it looks good, but historically it looks pretty bad. He has not gotten the job done. At 4.5 boards, I have him projected for 5.1. He's a slight betting favorite on just one book, minus 120 to go over. So pretty piss poor hit rates there for Spencer Dinwiddie. 0 for his last 10. 1 for 6 against tonight's opponent, the Jazz. Luis Pena wants to talk about some Aaron Gordon for rebounds. I told you guys, be careful with Aaron Gordon on the points. He did not score very well. Did not score very well at all. So hopefully you guys avoided Aaron Gordon's points. Those of you who tuned in anyway. Let's look at his rebounds, though. The last 10 games for Aaron Gordon at 6.5 boards. Kind of like his points. He's got some really good games in there at 6.5. 60% hit rate. But when you go and you look at his matchups against Golden State, it's not the greatest. Not the greatest, right? Just 2 for 4, a 50% hit rate. Heck, he even had a game March 7th where he recorded no rebounds. 0. And then, of course, a couple nights ago against Golden State, had 5 boards against the Warriors in that game. He has shown some rebound upside, though. I don't know if these games included Draymond Green or not. I want to say Draymond Green was still out around February, so Aaron Gordon took advantage. Possibly Dre was out for this game on March 10th. You'd have to go back and look, but Draymond Green is definitely a factor now that he's in the lineup. He held Aaron Gordon to just 5 boards in the last game. It's Golden State defense, kind of like Utah, man. Stingy on the boards. 5th in total rebounds, 6th and 7th in offensive and defensive rebounds against power forwards in the last 7 games. How many are the Warriors giving up? Oh, not that many. Dead last. Just 7.7 rebounds allowed to power forwards in the last 7 games. That is the first fewest. The most difficult matchup for power forwards and rebounds is this one against the Golden State Warriors, according to the last 7 games. So we move forward there. Maybe Aaron Gordon is due for another under. I do have him projected for just 6.1 boards. That is less than 6.5, closer to 6 rebounds than 7. And then at 6.5 rebounds, a betting favorite everywhere you look, minus 125, minus 129, minus 130, minus 135 to go under at 6.5 rebounds. So I dig it, brother. Mr. Luis Pena. Oh, you wanted to go over on AG for rebounds, I think. Ooh, I don't like the over. No, I don't like the over on Aaron Gordon's rebounds at 6.5. Sorry, I thought you said under. I was rocking with the under. That could be an under. Anyway, I'd be staying away from Aaron Gordon. Wayne's World says, Aaron Gordon has cost people so much money this year. He only hoops against Brooklyn. Knicks, Rashad for life. You're going to just fade the Aaron Gordon. You wouldn't take the under on Aaron Gordon at 6.5? You wouldn't take the under? Okay. Knicks, Rashad for life. You want to know the best assist props. So I think we liked Fred VanVleet at 6. That one looked decent. We liked Monty Morris at 4. I think that one looked decent. Pascal Siakam without Scotty Barnes. Nice hit rate, 100%. So those were 3 that kind of stood out to me. Those were the ones that stood out to me. As far as other rebound props, I don't know. We've talked Embiid. We've talked Jokic. We talked Dinwiddie for an under. We talked Aaron Gordon for me, looks like an under. So I think that'd be, some folks are saying Draymond under. Dwight Powell, where's he at today? They bumped him down to 6. I think he was at 6.5 in his last game. We ended up going under. I think I went under on him, and that ended up working out. So you could go Dwight Powell. What's he projected for? He's projected for 6.7. So his prop line is actually at 5.5 on the books, but they are betting it over on the books. So that's why he's at 6. And I got him at 6.7. But at 6.5, yeah, I did take the under on Powell last game and it hit. Let's move on. Let's move on from there. Let's talk some PRA. I think, that's we've hit some pretty good ones for the rebounds. Let's talk PRA. PRA last 10 games. Who's leading the way in hit rates? Well, JP, Jordan Poole. Are they going to give us Jordan? They are giving us Jordan Poole today. Wow. Why do I say wow? Because at 29.5 PRA, he's got a 100% hit rate over the last 10 games. We're getting him at 28.5 on PrizePicks. A couple of guys hitting at 80%, both Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. A couple of Nuggets looking pretty good at 80% hit rates. Talked about Bogdanovich for points. His PRA probably worth considering as well. 70% hit rate there. Other guys hitting at 60% include Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, Pascal Siakam, Will Barton, Dwight Powell. And then from there it gets down to 50% or less. So Curry starting tonight. Is that confirmed? Curry is the starter at point guard. Okay. Let's look at some of these PRA dudes then. Okay, well, hey, maybe we just avoided a trap then. If Curry's starting, do we still like Jordan Poole at 28.5 PRA with a 100% hit rate? Do we think he can get it off the bench? That's a question. That's a question. Jalen Brunson for 22.5 points was already mentioned as a possible over candidate. I see a couple of you folks mentioning Brunson for PRA at 32.5. We could look into this one a little bit. We can look at Brunson here. Brunson, 3 for 3 this season in games played without Luka Doncic and Tim Hardaway Jr. since the Porzingis trade went down. So let's see if he gets 3 for 3 on his PRA as well. Because he is doing a little bit of everything for the Dallas Mavericks, right? He's scoring, he's getting into the paint, kicking it out to open shooters. I mean, he was doing a little bit of it all in the first game. So I could see a PRA play being a look for Jalen Brunson. So let's go ahead and take these guys off the floor, Doncic and Tim Hardaway Jr. And then when we do that, we look at the last 5 games. We're only looking at the last 5 because we're really just interested in the last 3. He's actually just 2 for 3. So he's hit his points prop in 3 out of 3 games without Luka, without THJ since they shipped Porzingis out. He's 3 for 3 on his points, but he's 2 for 3 on his PRA, so slightly lower hit rate. Not saying that he can't get it done tonight because he did have 36 PRA against Utah on April 16th when they last met. Speaking of which, Let's take a look and see how he's fared against Utah this season at a 32.5 PRA. He's hit the over in 3 out of 4 games versus the Jazz. He's got a 75% hit rate, which I think was the same hit rate for his points against the Jazz. So higher hit rate overall, 3 for 3 for Brunson on his points. Same hit rate against the Jazz, 3 out of 4. So let's move forward here. Let's take a look at this Jazz defense. We're sorting by team name, so don't get freaked out if I scroll down to the bottom here. We're just looking at the team name. Utah, they're going to be down at the bottom because it starts with a U. They're giving up 22.5 points, about 6.5 rebounds. So that's like 29 PRA. And then over 9 assists. So about 38 to 39 PRA. He needs 33, so doable. Definitely doable for a point guard like Brunson. We'll also take a look at the shooting guard spot. They're giving up about 21 points, about 7 rebounds, so 28, and about 3 assists. We'll call it 31. So a little harder for shooting guards than point guards. So we move forward. We take a look at the PRA projection for Brunson. I got him projected for 29.1 PRA. He is at 33.5 PRA on every sports book out there. Here's what's interesting about this. So you're seeing him at 32.5 here on PrizePicks. He's at 33.5 on the sports books, meaning 1 PRA difference, right? We're seeing some value on Jalen Brunson at 32.5 PRA. We're getting him at a lower number, in other words. At 33.5, we are seeing the public on most sports books betting the over at 33.5, minus 134, minus 130. So if they're betting the over at 33.5, shouldn't we be considering betting the over at 32.5? I'm just saying. Aaron Rodgers mentioning Dwight Powell, but he's not wanting to go over on Dwight Powell. He's wanting to go under because I don't know if you guys watched the game. Dwight Powell was sharing some pretty heavy minutes with Maxi Kleber. They put Kleber in there. Kleber's got the ability to space the floor, to spread the floor. Brunson kept getting into the paint, kicking it out to Kleber for an open 3. Powell doesn't give you that. He doesn't give you that option of hitting a 3 ball for you. He can't spread the defense and open up the paint. He can't drag a Rudy Gobert out to the 3-point line like Maxi Kleber can. So they kind of have like a little bit of a mismatch or an advantage. They can pull Gobert out of the paint using Kleber, open things up for their guards like Brunson to slash, like Dinwiddie to get to the paint. So he's wanting to go under on Dwight Powell. And I think we saw kind of the minutes for Powell and Kleber split pretty evenly. Let's just take a look at it, though. So Dwight Powell played a total of 22 minutes, which was pretty low when you compare to the minutes he played in his previous 4 games, right? 22 minutes played. Let's look at Kleber, too. I just want to see how the minutes were broken up between these two guys. Kleber's, I'm not going to be able to look at that. He's not loaded up here in props.cash, but anyway, take a look at that. Look at the minutes between Powell and Kleber. Let me know what you find. But anyway, he only played 22 minutes, did Dwight Powell. For 17.5 PRA, he's hit the over in 60% of his games, but against Utah, been a little bit more of a struggle. Has only hit the over against the Jazz twice out of 5 contests. So that's a 40% hit rate. He's averaging 16.6 PRA in those contests. So Mr. Aaron Rodgers liking the under here on Dwight Powell. As far as the Utah defense, 10th in total points allowed, 1st in rebounds allowed, 5th in assists allowed. So red in all 3 of those categories. We move ahead to the center spot. We go find Utah. They're giving up about 24 points per game to centers. About 15 rebounds. So we're at 39 PRA already. And they're giving up over 6 assists. So like 45, 46 PRA. He needs 18. I mean, there's definitely upside in this matchup. It's really going to come down to how many minutes does Dwight Powell play tonight. Powell projected for about 20 PRA. But on a site like DraftKings at 17.5 PRA, he's being bet under, minus 140 to go under. So looking like a betting favorite to go under, so I could see why Aaron Rodgers is throwing that out there. Yeah, it seemed like the Mavs had more success with Kleber at center, being that he gave him another shooting option out there on the perimeter. Kind of agree with you there. Darian's wanting to know about Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, PRA. Are you, what do you want to do with that, Darian? Are you wanting to go over or under? Are you wanting to go over or under on Tobias Harris at 25.5? I mean, he's likely going to be matched up with Pascal Siakam. Kind of a tough defender, right? I could see him giving Tobias Harris some problems. Let's look at Harris, though. We haven't talked to any Tobias Harris today. So we're going to do it right now. Talk about his PRA a little bit. Come on, baby. Come on. All right. He's at 25.5 PRA. The last 10 games, a 50% hit rate. 50%. So not, from a hit rate standpoint, the greatest hit rates in the world. At 25.5 against Toronto this season, he's gone over in 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. Since acquiring James Harden, he has gone over in 1 out of 3. Just a 33% hit rate. He had 14 and 16, and he finally had himself a good game against Toronto in that first playoff game, game 1, with 38 PRA. He blew his 25.5 out of the water. Is that an anomaly? Or do you think he gets back to 26 or more PRA again tonight versus the Raptors? Raptors are going to be a little short-handed without one of their better players, Scotty Barnes, obviously. Toronto's defense, 7th in points allowed, 14th in rebounds allowed, 20th in assists allowed. And then we go over to the power forward position. Toronto, over the last 7 games, giving up about 23 points, about 10 boards. That's like 33, plus 3 assists on top of that, 36, 37 PRA. He needs 26 for the over. Not a tough matchup by any means. And then as far as a projection goes, I have him projected for 30.5 PRA. That's 5 more PRA than his prop line of 25.5. But even a favorable projection cannot sway the betting public. They are taking the under at 25.5. They do not think he goes for 26 or more points plus rebounds plus assists. So huge projection at 30.5 versus the 25.5. But the betting public, they don't like it. They're not buying it. They think he goes back into the trash can tonight. Let's see here. We're talking a little bit of Bogdanovich over PRA. Well, we liked his point, so I think if he hits his over on the 18.5 points, he's probably going to hit the over on his PRA as well. So there you go, Darian. Rogers is saying that without Luka Doncic, Dwight Powell will take a hit. I feel that. Kleber played 24 minutes versus Powell at 22. All right. Maybe they go back to that stretch 5 guy with Kleber at the center spot. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's move on from PRA. We'll talk about some 3-point makes. You guys got any 3-point shooters that you are really liking? Any 3-point props that you're feeling more than the others? I'll pull up the hit rates over the last 10 games and we'll start from there. Appreciate everybody tuning in. By the way, slap that like button if you haven't yet. By the way, our goal, 99.5 likes. You know we're trying to hit the over on 99.5. We're trying to hit the over on 99.5 likes. So if you haven't hit the like button yet, help us get there. Help us cover the spread, the 99.5 prop. Not the spread, but cover the prop of 99.5. Anyway, 3-point makes. Who's got the highest hit rates tonight? Klay Thompson at 3.5 3-point makes is sitting up there at 70%, but he's at 4 on PrizePicks, so they have bumped him up from 3.5 to 4. Jordan Poole, his teammate, he's at 3.5 according to Props.Cash with a 60% hit rate. We're getting him at 3 on PrizePicks. One of the popular players tonight, Bogdanovich, at 2.5 3-point makes. It's the Bogdanovich birthday narrative. No, he had himself a good game. Birthday or not, he had himself a good game in the last game, so I could see why you guys want to go back to Bogdanovich. But 2.5 3-point makes, 60% hit rate for him. Uncle Jeff Green, at 0.5 3-point makes. He needs to make just one. He's got a 60% hit rate over the last 10. Mike Conley Jr. at 1.5. He's at 2 on PrizePicks, 60% hit rate. Andrew Wiggins at 1.5. I remember at one point, the Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 3-point makes was almost automatic. He was burying 2 in a lot of his games. Over the last 10 games, not quite as great of a hit rate, but still somewhat decent at 60%. Tobias Harris also sitting there at 60%. Reggie Bullock, another guy sitting out there at 2.5 3-point makes, 60%, but we're getting him at 3 on PrizePicks. And then from there, it's a bunch of guys hitting at 50% or below. Tell you this, anytime you see Steph Curry at 3 3-point makes, how do you not get excited about that, right? The greatest 3-point shooter we will likely see in our lifetimes in the NBA is at 3 3-point makes. It's crazy. Every time I see this at 3, 3.5, I'm just like, how? How, Sway? That's what I want to know. Definitely nothing on fantasy points. Definitely not. No. I don't know. You let me know, Tricks, if you got something. I don't have the answers. I really don't. I'm doing my best, though, to try to get to the bottom of things. But I ain't got the answers. Nobody knows anything. Always remember that. When you get these guys on here, including myself, making videos and stuff, nobody has the answers. Nobody knows anything with 100% certainty. Anyways, any 3-point props that are standing out to you guys? It looks like D Graves is wanting to go under on Andrew Wiggins. Under on Andrew Wiggins. Tricks, I don't want to have to like put you in timeout, man. I really don't. Like, I'm not here to ban people and stuff. Just relax, okay? Relax. Odds are, if it's a PRA play that people are liking, it's probably in play for fantasy points as well. But I see a couple of you people mentioning, Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 3-point makes. I'm not real sure which way you guys are wanting to go. I'm not seeing, you're just saying Andrew Wiggins for 3. I don't know if you're wanting to go over or under on that. One person I think said the under on Andrew Wiggins for 3. So we'll start with Wiggins. Take a look at Andrew Wiggins. He's at 1.5 3-point makes. As I said, there was a point in the season where PrizePicks wouldn't even put him up at 1.5 3-point makes. He's done a decent job. 60% hit rate over the last 10. If you look at the last 6 games, he had a 5-hit streak going. 2, 3, 4, 3, and 2 on his 3-point makes. Made just 1 against Denver. How many did he actually take, though? He played a little under 30 minutes. He only attempted 2 threes. That's concerning. He only shot 2 threes. That's not good. We need him to be at like 4, 5, 6, or 7, up around there. 2 3-point attempts is not good. Hopefully that was just a game where, I don't know, he just didn't do well. Didn't shoot much. But then you go and you look at the hit rates versus the Denver Nuggets this season, and you're like, well, dang, maybe just, Denver just has his number. Maybe they just have his number. He's gone under on 1.5 3-point makes in 3 out of 4 games. Over in 1 out of 4. So 25% hit rate going over. Nuggets D pretty good against the 3-ball. 9th in total threes allowed. 10th in 3-point field goal percentage. We jump ahead here. We take a look at the small forward spot. How many threes are the Denver Nuggets giving up per game in the last 7 games to small forwards? About 2.5, 2.4. So, that's the Golden State Warriors. We're talking Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets 2.3. Sorry, they're giving up 2.3 3-point makes to small forwards in the last 7 games, which is like the 7th fewest. The average is good. Where they rank in terms of 3-point make average is not good. They're down toward the bottom. Projection for Wiggins, though, 2.3. And he is a slight betting favorite at -120 to go over. So Wiggins, hey, I don't know. Man. What other 3-point props are standing out to you guys? Listen, if you guys want to talk fantasy points, we could talk fantasy points. Let me know. If there's something specific you're looking for, let me know. Cold jelly. That's a hell of a name. What kind of jelly we talking about, sir? That sounds kind of dirty. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I just have the dirty mind. Cold jelly. If you know, you know. Tobias Harris at 1.5 3-point makes. Let's discuss Toby. Former Orlando Magic player. Man, I thought he was going to be part of the future for the Orlando Magic, but not the case. Anyway, Tobias Harris at 1.5 3-point makes. We look at the last 10 games for him. He's got a 60% hit rate. So 6 out of 10, he has gone over. We look at his games against Toronto this season. Not the greatest hit rates in the world, at least not the first 3 games. He hit 1, 0, and 0. A total of 1 3-point make across the first 3 matchups against the Raptors. Now, the last 2 matchups have been better. April 7th, he made 2. And then just a couple nights ago, he drained 3 against Toronto. So maybe he's got things figured out against Toronto. The Raptors defense ranks 16th in total threes allowed, 18th in 3-point field goal percentage allowed. Against power forwards in the last 7 games, the Raptors are giving up a healthy little average here of 2.8 3-point makes per game. So nearly 3, Tobias Harris needs to find 2 out of those 2.84 allowed. And then a projection for him, 1.6. He is a betting favorite at -130 and -135 to go over. So maybe you lean toward the over. Otherwise, what other 3-point props are you guys liking? Tyrese Maxey, 3-point makes. Well, he did have himself a good game last game, right? Are we thinking Maxey runs it back? He's at 2.5. Wasn't he at 1.5 once upon a time? Not that long ago. I liked him at 1.5. At 2.5, not the, worst hit rates at 50%. It's decent. It's coin flip territory. Last 5, he's got a 60% hit rate. Getting better. Versus Toronto this season, 2 for 5, 40%. Kind of like Tobias Harris, the first 3 games against the Raptors, he really struggled. And then came to life in the last 2 games. Uh-oh. Best Cams is in the building, y'all. Best Cams. Don't click on that bullshit. Don't click on it. I'm telling y'all right now, you don't want to do it. Let me do something real quick about this. Let's remove this threat. Get your asses up out of here. We don't want you here. So we're going to get rid of you right now. There we go. Let's go ahead and report them too. We would call that pornography or sexually explicit material that they're peddling to us, right? Boom. There we go. Get your ass up out of here. We're talking props, not porn. So we got him out of there. Hey, man, Jeff, I'm trying, brother. I got a lot going on here. I wear many hats. I'm running a lot of different things. Anyway, Tyrese Maxey at 2.5 3-point makes. Kind of like Tobias Harris, 0 for 3 against Toronto. The last 2 games, though, he has hit the over against the Raptors. So maybe they're starting to figure things out against the Raptors. Maybe they've exploited a weakness in the Toronto Raptors over the last couple of games. Shooting guards against the Toronto Raptors, 4.8 threes given up by Toronto. 2 shooting guards in the last 7 games. That's nearly 5 per game. He needs 3. They're giving up close to 5 per game. So the matchup's looking nice. It's looking right for Tyrese Maxey. He's projected, though, for just 2.1 tonight. And he's a pretty big betting favorite, -140 to go under at 2.5. But I'm trying to control the chat, Jeff. I'm trying, brother. I'm trying. I'm going to have to get one of you guys to moderate this sucker. Everyday Fantasy says Bundy with the 6Ks. How's Rich Hill doing? I was going to take the over on both of those guys, but didn't know if I didn't love either one of them, really. But that's good to hear that Dylan Bundy with the 6Ks. A lot of people were bashing Bundy. They said the Red Sox are going to have Bundy's number. Xander Bogaerts and company. Devers. I don't know. Looks like he's having a good strikeout game. Shout out to Dylan Bundy. Let's see. You're saying Bogdanovich for 3-point makes? Yep, we're liking his points. More than likely, if he's going to hit his points prop, he's probably going to have to knock down a few threes. So I'm not mad at that. Hill with 2Ks? Ugh, that's not good. Props over porn, Chris Trevino. You know the name of the game. You know the name of the game. OG threes. I think OG's points was the way that we wanted to go. I mean, you could go OG's threes, but his points at 16.5 were like, what was it, 6 for 6 in games without Barnes this season? So I'd go there. All right. Let's jump ahead. 3-point makes, I mean, you know, we've talked about him. I don't know if I trust Brunson. He just didn't take a whole lot of threes. He was more interested in driving, getting into the paint, kicking out. Didn't have a great shooting game against Utah for threes. I don't think I want to go back there, though, for Mr. Brunson. Definitely don't trust Fred VanVleet. We talked about his points already. I don't particularly trust Fred VanVleet to score from anywhere or do anything productive in terms of scoring. Maybe he does, but I'm not going to pay to find out, basically. Free throw makes. Jeez, Embiid's up there at 10. Had 9 against Toronto. In the last game, had 10 in his previous game against Toronto. That seems a little too rich. Don't think I want to go there. Siakam, that could be a move. He's hit 5 or more free throw makes in 5 straight games. That could be a good one. Let's use StatMuse real quick and look at this a little closer. Pascal Siakam, FTM, free throw makes without Scotty Barnes logs. All right. Not too bad. He's hit 5 or more in 3 out of 5 games. 5 or more in 3 out of 5 games. One of those games was against Philly back on December 28th. He had 6 free throw makes in that one. So, for what it's worth, I think Siakam could be a look at 5 free throw makes. Saying Donovan Mitchell at 4.5 free throw makes. Yeah, he had 10 against Dallas. That's not too bad. We want the high usage guys, basically. We want the guys that are going to be aggressive, attack, and slash. We don't want those guys that are going to be standing out there camping the 3-point line. They don't get nothing done out there. We need these guys to attack. Be in attack mode. Jokic, he needs to find himself more trips to the free throw line. Last 3 games, it's not getting fouled a whole lot. You would think against Kevon Looney, he could exert his will and draw some fouls, but no, not the case. Not so much. How about Harden? How'd he do? Well, he's creeping. He's creeping right around 7 free throws, but he's went under in 4 straight games. Okay, well, that's not a move for me then. That ain't going to be a move for me. Brunson, he got to the free throw line quite a bit without Luka Doncic. He had 5 free throw makes against Utah. Him and Dinwiddie did a pretty good job getting to the hoop. Brunson was in there slashing. So I don't like his 3-point makes, but maybe we go to his free throw prop. Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, Anthony. Double A. Maybe we go Brunson free throws. Maybe that's an idea, right? Yeah. His free throws are at 2.5, Darian. I think we go there if Luka's truly out tonight. Brunson at 2.5 free throw makes. He needs to get to the line twice. Needs to knock down 3 out of 4. I like it. I think it's doable. How about blocks and steals? Anybody tickling your fancy for blocks and steals? Andrew Wiggins at 1.5 has in the past done a pretty good job, but shoot, looking at the last 5 games, it ain't looking so good for Wiggins. It's not looking that great anymore. Shout out Randy Moss. I see you. Randy Moss. Jeff Green at 0.5 blocks and steals. 60% hit rate for him. I don't know, man. I've told you guys in the past, the blocks and steals props for me ain't too much of a move that I make a whole lot. So let's go through these hit rates real quick on these guys. Joel Embiid at 2.5. He's at 50%. Again, coin flip type thing. Danny Green at 1.5, 40%. Not great. Not great. How about this other game, Utah and Dallas? Who we got on this one? Dorian Finney-Smith at 1.5, 50%. I think he hit the over in the last game, didn't he? Yep, he had 3 against Utah. That's a pattern for you. Hit, miss, hit, miss, hit. What else? Jalen Brunson, not on the board. Mike Conley Jr. at 1.5. Yeah, 30% hit rate. Yeah, like I just wouldn't go there. Wouldn't go there. How about Denver Golden State? Wiggins 20%. Nah, not for me. Draymond Green 50%. Jeff Green 60%. Yeah, I'm just not really messing with any of these, gang. You guys, you want to play these? I mean, you could play them. I just think that there's way better options, way more places to look than these volatile, unpredictable blocks and steals props. I don't know. Maybe these guys at 0.5, you just roll the dice on, like a Jeff Green or a Bogdanovich. Probably favor Jeff Green. He's got to find 1 block or 1 steal. Maybe you go there, but I mean, that's about it, fam. I mean, unless you want to talk fantasy points, we're like 2 hours into this thing. I'll take a couple of fantasy point props. Let me know. Siakam fantasy. Best thing I could tell you to do is go Pascal Siakam. FanDuel points without Scotty Barnes logs. And you can see what his fantasy points have looked like this season in games without Barnes. He's hit the over on 47 fantasy points in 4 out of 5 games without Scotty Barnes this season. So that's a 80% hit rate. So that's looking pretty good. So we talked about liking Siakam for his assist prop. How about Siakam for fantasy points? Full game fantasy. The only issue is if you think this game blows out, then maybe you don't go there. Maybe you don't go there. As far as a projection, though, for Siakam's fantasy points, I got him projected for 49.41, according to Fantasy Labs. 4 for 5 without Barnes. He's projected to go over. Matchup-wise, against Philadelphia, Philly, against power forwards, they're giving up 45.6 fantasy points. Against centers, a little bit tougher, it looks like. 53.3 to opposing centers. So depending on where Siakam starts, I mean, that could be a move. There you go. David saying if Luka's out, Brunson's 3 for 3 on his free throw makes with Dinwiddie. Booyakasha. That could be a move. OG Anunoby. Same thing that we just did with Pascal Siakam. You could go OG Anunoby, FanDuel points, because FanDuel scoring is the same as PrizePicks scoring for fantasy, without Scotty Barnes. He's hit the over on 30 fantasy points in 5 out of 6 games this season. 5 out of 6. And the one that he missed, he had 29.9. You would have lost by 0.1 fantasy points. So very good hit rates for both OG and Pascal Siakam. I got Anunoby projected for 32.4 fantasy points, which is more than 30. More than 30. And then small forwards against the Philadelphia 76ers. They're giving up over 48 fantasy points, nearly 49 per game. So definitely some upside for OG without Scotty in this matchup against Philly. Looking kind of decent. Embiid, 56 fantasy points. Let's look at Joel Embiid. FanDuel points versus Raptors. StatMuse is free for you folks out there who have never seen StatMuse before. But Joel Embiid versus the Toronto Raptors for fantasy points this season, not great. He's hit the over on one game, 59.2. And you look historically, I mean, he's got some pretty big games in there, but he hasn't hit 56, the over on 56 fantasy points a whole lot. I mean, he's played the Raptors a lot throughout his career. He's hit the over in 1, 2, 3 out of however many games this is, 15 or so. So, I mean, there you go on that. Centers against the Toronto Raptors in the last 7 games. Raptors are giving up 45 fantasy points to centers. That's the second fewest. So looking kind of tough. For Embiid. His projection, though, is 63.1. That's obviously a whole lot higher than the 56. So cross-reference these fantasy projections on some of the other sites out there like RotoWire, NumberFire. See what they think about Joel Embiid. Nick's Rashad for Life says, my card is in. CJ and the gang, thank you. Glad it's Money Making Monday. Good luck, gang. Good luck to you as well. Monty Morris fantasy. Rocky Hustle wants to know about some Monty Morris fantasy points. I was liking Morris at 4 assists. For those of you who might have missed it earlier, we talked about Monty Morris at 4 assists. You're liking Monty Morris at 23 fantasy points. Monty Morris, FanDuel points versus Warriors logs. He has faced Golden State 1, 2, 3 times, and he has gone over 23 fantasy points in all 3 of his games this season. 3 for 3, 100%. Nice hit rates. 3 for 3, 100%. Golden State against point guards over the last 7 games. How many fantasy points are they giving up? They are giving up 47.5, which puts them like somewhere in the middle, but down toward the bottom. Kind of tough against point guards in the fantasy point department. But if they're giving up 47.5 and Morris needs 23.1 for the over, I think that he's got some upside. His projection today, 29.6. That is 6.6 fantasy points different. Fantasy Labs versus PrizePicks. So again, use some other sites out there that have free FanDuel NBA projections, like NumberFire, RotoWire. Check those out. See how they compare to Fantasy Labs. What about James Harden? Darian, what about James Harden and his fantasy points? He's at 45. 45 today. Let's take a look and see. James Harden. FanDuel points versus Raptors logs. This is how you use StatMuse, for those of you who are wanting to know. He has faced Toronto twice as a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. He has gone under his fantasy points in both games versus the Raptors. 37.3, 39.8. Those are both unders versus the 45 fantasy points that he's at today. This does not include the playoff game. These are just regular season games. Going back to when he was with the Nets, he did go over with 50 and 46.4 against Toronto. So, I mean, 2 regular season games with Philly against Toronto, he's went under. He's got 1 game. This is his playoff game against Toronto. He had 54 fantasy points. Scoring 22, pulling in 5 boards, dropping 14 dimes, picked up a steal, picked up a block, and had 1 turnover. So he's covered in just 1 out of 3 games versus the Raptors this season since joining the Philadelphia 76ers. As far as the matchup goes, point guards versus the Toronto Raptors. Raptors are giving up over 50 fantasy points per game to opposing point guards. That is the 6th highest per game average. And then a projection for Harden, 55.93. Let's call it 56. That's 11 fantasy points different than where he's at on PrizePicks today. It's a pretty significant difference. 11 fantasy points. Again, double check. Maybe Fantasy Labs is way off their rocker with 55.9 fantasy points. Double check this projection on some other sites, but that's a huge, huge, huge gap there. Rocky Hustle, you could play both. Make an entry with Monty Morris Fantasy and make an entry with his assist prop. Doesn't have to be this or that. It could be this and that. You could play both. Trevor says, I just stopped by to hit the like button. You hit the over at 99.5. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Appreciate all you guys for smashing that like button. Thank you for getting us over the hump at 99.5. Love y'all. I love y'all. King United, Draymond Green's fantasy points. Where's Dre at? 34, going up against Denver. You know what we got to do, right? Draymond Green, FanDuel points versus Nuggets logs. Start with the regular season. He did not play Denver this season at all in the regular season. So we ain't got nothing really to look at. But going back to last season, had a couple of nice little games. Well, what did he have in game 1 versus Denver? 41.7. I would say that's an over. 41.7 in his first game against Denver. Let's look at the matchup. Power forwards versus the Nuggets. Denver giving up about 49 fantasy points to opposing power forwards over the last 7 games. That puts them inside the top 10. So very good matchup for Draymond Green. And then his projected fantasy points are at 35.1. So not the margins, not the differentials that we're seeing on some of these other ones that we looked at, like Monty Morris, James Harden, etc. But still favored to go over. Any other fantasy point props you want me to look at? Daily fantasy. How about Dorian Finney-Smith fantasy over? Dorian Finney-Smith over fantasy points. Let's look at it. He's at 25. Now what we're going to do is something a little different with this one. We'll go Dorian Finney-Smith FanDuel points without Luka Doncic logs. And then we could see how he's done in the fantasy department when Luka Doncic is out. He had 30.5, 32.2. Went way under here with 18.1, 30.6, way under again with 20.2. So he's covered the fantasy points of 25 in 3 out of his last 5 games, 60% hit rate. Backing it up to the previous 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He hit the over in 4 out of 5 there. So he's got a 70% hit rate in his last 10 games played without Luka Doncic. Worth noting that since the Porzingis for Dinwiddie trade has went down, he went 2 for 2 in the regular season, going over 25 fantasy points, with 32.2 against Sacramento, 30.5 against Houston. And then in his last game, which is the first playoff game that he played against Utah, he had 30.5. So he is 3 for 3 this season since the Porzingis for Dinwiddie swap in covering his fantasy points at 25 with Luka out of the lineup. 3 for 3. Small sample size, but a 100% hit rate. Okay, so maybe Dorian Finney-Smith is worth a look. I think Dorian Finney-Smith's going to be playing some power forward. Is that right? Power forward, small forward. We'll look at both forward positions. Utah giving up over 41 fantasy points per game to power forwards in the last 7. Puts them down in the bottom 7 in the league. 7th fewest fantasy points to power forwards in the last 7. Small forwards, taking a peek at the small forward position, all the way down to the bottom we go. Utah giving up about 35 fantasy points per game. Last 7 to small forward. So the averages are both higher than the 25 fantasy point prop that he's at right now. So there's upside, I guess you could say. Although the rankings, not the best. His projection is 29.6. That's about 4 to 5 fantasy points higher than where we're seeing him on PrizePicks. Eric Thurman Jr. says, I was the 100th like. I appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you. Nope, haven't made anything yet, man. No entries as of now. My entries are blank. I ain't got nothing yet. This is my first look, so I typically dig in a little bit deeper, and then I start putting some stuff together. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, Dorian Finney-Smith fantasy points without Luka, 3 for 3. 3 for 3. Yeah, he does a little bit of everything, so I like that. Waddy is live, says Royce O'Neal under PRA. I won't dig into that one too far since we've already covered PRA, but I'll just pull up a projection real quick for Roysta 5'9". He's projected for 14.7 PRA at 12.5. He is being bet under on your favorite sports books. So there's a little bit of info for Royce O'Neal. Maina L14. We liked OG for fantasy points or for points at 16.5. I think both of those look good. You would like to see which props you're thinking about playing if you would play any. Well, we talked about a lot of good ones. OG Anunoby's fantasy points in play. Pascal Siakam's fantasy points are in play. Pascal Siakam's assists. 100% hit rate this season without Scotty Barnes. That's in play. Maybe Fred VanVleet at 6 assists is worth a look. We liked Monty Morris at 4 assists. I think he was looking pretty sweet. Possibly James Harden at 11. Not too shabby. Points props. OG Anunoby, 100% hit rate, 6 for 6 without Scotty Barnes this season. He should be on your radar. I thought Pascal Siakam looked pretty nice, even at 25.5. I might pivot over to his fantasy points, though. That could be maybe a better look. What else were we liking? Jalen Brunson, 3 for 3, covering his points prop in games without Luka Doncic this season at 22.5. You could go there. What else? Aaron Gordon struggles against Golden State, 15.5 points. You might want to go under on him again. He was at 8 the last time they took the court. These are future games. You got to worry about those. What else? What else were we liking? Rebounds. Rebounds. I don't remember any rebounds that were really standing out that looked super good. Maybe Aaron Gordon under 6.5 rebounds. Spencer Dinwiddie under 4.5 rebounds. Those both kind of look nice. Very low hit rates. Dinwiddie's like 0 for his last 10. So those could be moves to make. PRA, probably the same guys, more or less, that we talked about for fantasy score. Tobias Harris, I think he kind of looked good at 25.5. Just going off memory here, off of what I can remember here. Jordan Poole's PRA looked really good, but he's coming off the bench tonight. They're saying Steph Curry's going to start. So 100% hit rate for Jordan Poole in the last 10 games at 28.5. A little risky, though, being that Curry's back. 3-point props. Tyrese Maxey, guys, he's up on the board twice. He's at 2 and he's at 2.5. Which one do you take? The 2 or the 2.5? Get in now. I don't know why he's up there twice right now. He's been cloned at 2 different prop lines. Other 3-point. There wasn't really a whole lot of 3-point props that I really like. Free throw makes, I think Jalen Brunson at 2.5. He was looking pretty sweet. Pascal Siakam, he's got a pretty high hit rate at 5 or more free throw makes going up against Philly. Don't mind that one. Blocks and steals, wasn't really looking to go here, but if I did, maybe Jeff Green. So there you go. How do you find fantasy projections on RotoWire? You go to rotowire.com. You go to DFS. Click it. You go to NBA. Click it. You go to Lineup Optimizer. Go down to FanDuel. Click it. Then you scroll on down here and you got some sweet fantasy point projections, baby. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up. That's how you pull them up, my friend. Boom. All right, gang. With that being said, good luck tonight to everybody out there. If you're in Patreon, I'm going to be digging into some more MLB strikeout props. I'm going to take a look at some more strikeout plays. We've been doing very well. I've been doing very well with the strikeout props lately. So I want to go back to the well with those strikeout props. Appreciate everybody joining me. If you haven't slapped the like button yet, do so on your way out. It's not too late to hit that like. We did hit the goal of over 99.5 likes. So I appreciate everybody out there who did do their due diligence and slap that like button. Shout out to everybody who's joining me. Appreciate all the support. Good luck on your slips tonight. We will see you in the next one. Peace.